All right, beautiful. Thank you for joining me for a Yin Yoga practice. My name is Holly. My pronouns are she, her. This is a floor-based class. You don't need any prior yoga experience or fancy yoga props. You will want a carpeted area or a yoga mat if you have one. And you might want like a small pillow, just a household pillow. Doesn't need to be a fancy yoga bolster or anything like that. But you might want a pillow in class, but this is not a prop heavy class. We're going to start in a comfortable seated position. You can sit in Sukhasana, easy pose with knees bent, one foot in front of the other. You can also sit crisscross applesauce or with your feet in front of you if that feels good. You can roll your shoulders forward a few times, backward a few times, and just relax your shoulders. Lift your chin and chest and take a nice cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Do that again, inhale. As you exhale, just think about letting your day go. Breathe in, feel your body rise. As you exhale, feel your body fall, starting to come into your body, come into your breath, come into your yoga practice. We'll start with a few rounds of square breathing. You'll inhale through your nose for 4, hold the inhale for 4, exhale through your nose for 4, and then hold the exhale for 4. So the idea is there's 4 nodes of breathing, the inhale, the exhale, and the pause between, and we'll hold all of those for equal amounts of time. It's called square breathing because some people like to add a visualization to it in which with eyes closed or open, you can imagine that you're tracing the 4 sides of a square with your breath. So as you inhale, you can imagine a line drawing up, hold, doing the second part of the square, exhale, third part, and then hold the exhale to complete the square. And it's square breathing. I'll walk us through a few rounds of it, and then I'll give us some time just to breathe and visualize the square in our minds. Sitting up nice and tall, relax your shoulders. You can close your eyes or do a soft fuzzy gaze beyond the tip of your nose, or anchor your gaze on a spot on the floor or wall in front of you if that helps you feel grounded. Relax your jaw, seal your lips, and begin. Inhale through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the inhale breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a square breath. Inhale through the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4. If you'd like, you can trace one side of the square. Hold for 4, tracing in your mind's eye that second side of the square. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4, completing the square. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll do 2 more minutes of square breathing. Let's do one more round of square breathing. As you're ready, just return your breath to normal in and out through your nose. You might observe any sensations going on in your body and your mind. There's no right or wrong answer. Through yoga, through breath work, we're just given an opportunity to observe without judgment or expectation or the need to explain, just an opportunity to observe our rich inner world. As you're ready, we're going to make our way onto our backs. Lying on your back, you can have your arms and legs long, arms down by your side. And our first posture today is simply this, a savasana. In Yin Yoga, it's often referred to as Puddle Pose. You can close your eyes. You can open your arms and legs as much or as little as you'd like. If lying down on your back with your legs straight does not feel good to your lower back, you're welcome to place a pillow under your lower back or under your knees. You can also bend your knees and have your feet on the floor about hip width distance, letting your knees come together, and that will also take some pressure off of the lower back. We're going to hold here for 5 minutes as we breathe through the nose. So in Yin Yoga, we hold postures for 3 to 5 minutes, not just as a physical practice, but as like a kind of, I think, mental, emotional, and spiritual practice as well. In a world where we're constantly running around, being still gives us an opportunity to explore what's going on the inside. It's a practice. If stillness does not come naturally for you, it also does not come naturally for me. That's why I dedicate time to this practice every week. And if you ever find that you start fidgeting or moving around, right, you can just observe that compassionately and just practice returning to stillness and breath. When we hold postures for long periods of time, we don't just work into muscles and joints, we start to work into connective tissue, ligaments, tendons, fascia. So we want to do about 70% of what you think you should be doing. In more yang styles of yoga, where you're moving around in time and space and you're pushing yourself into postures, you might push yourself to a deep extent. But here again, because we're holding postures for long periods of time, a little bit goes a long way. If at any point, let's say your lower back starts to hurt in Savasana, right, you're welcome to place a pillow under your lower back or bend your knees with your feet on the floor, and then just make your way back into stillness and breath. Today's practice in particular, I'll give us some time just to be still and breathe. Again, returning to our rich inner world and just observing. I thought I would read you a passage from a book. The book is called The Art of Solitude. It was written in 2019 and came out in 2020, which I think is pretty great timing. And it's by a Buddhist monk and scholar named Stephen Batchelor. And he's written a lot of books on Buddhism, including Buddhism Without Beliefs, a contemporary guide to awakening. So he particularly focuses on kind of like the non-religious aspects of Buddhism. So this is a short passage from The Art of Solitude. He says, "There is more to solitude than just being alone. True solitude is a way of being that needs to be cultivated. You cannot switch it on or off at will. Solitude is an art. Mental training is needed to refine and stabilize it. When you practice solitude, you dedicate yourself to the care of the soul. For those who have rejected religion in favor of secular humanism, the notion of solitude may imply self-indulgence, navel-gazing, or solipsism. Inevitably, some may be drawn to solitude as a way of escaping responsibility and avoiding relationships. But for many, it provides the time and space to develop the inner calm and autonomy needed to engage effectively and creatively with the world. Moments of quiet contemplation, whether before a work of art or while observing your breath, allow you to rethink what your life is about and reflect on what matters most for you. Solitude is not a luxury for the leisured few. It is an inescapable dimension of being human. Whether we are devout believers or devout atheists, in solitude, we confront and explore the same existential questions. And so as you lie on your back in this posture, you might remember that this stillness, this observation of the breath, this going inward is a practice, a beautiful form, not just of yoga, but of contemplation as you breathe in and out through your nose. Take an inhale through your nose, feel your body rise. Anything you'd like to let go of, you can let it go through a cleansing exhale breath. It can be out through the nose or the mouth. Start to bring your feet together. You can bring your arms overhead. And if you'd like, you can take a moment stretching up and down, maybe even flexing your toes back towards your face or arching your spine like you're having a good yawn. Our next pose is banana pose, Malasana, making a banana shape with our body. Start to walk your hands and feet to the right side of your space so that from a bird's eye view, your body makes a C curve like a banana. There's so many options to explore within this posture. You can simply keep your hands and feet side by side. You can cross your left ankle over your right ankle for an IT band stretch. You can cross your left hand over your right hand to open the left shoulder more. You can also bend your elbows and catch opposite elbow and opposite hand. Or if having the arms overhead does not feel pleasant to the shoulders, you can have one or both arms down by your side. You can keep the back of your head on the floor, or for a gentle neck and shoulder stretch, you can roll your right ear down towards the floor. If your lower back is far off the floor, it might feel good to place a small pillow under the lower back, under the knees or head, if that feels good for you. The further you walk your hands and feet to the right side of the room, the deeper you'll feel the stretch. The more you bring your hands and feet towards the center line of your body, the more gentle the stretch. Remember that in Yin Yoga, you want to do about 70% of what you think you should be doing because we're holding the postures for longer. We'll hold here for 5 minutes and we're already a minute into the posture. If you find stillness and solitude to be jarring, you are not alone in that, especially these days where we have cell phones to keep us occupied at all times. We're rarely just still without technology, right? Or at least without, I know that we're on Zoom, but without like a phone to look at news or social media. And it's our brain's job to protect us. So when we go from, a lot of exterior input all day and moving around and running around and processing information, when we go from that to just some stillness and breath, it can set off alarms in the brain because it's confusing, right? We're like, what are we doing? This can be a nice time to gently thank your brain for trying to protect you. I like to sometimes tell my brain, like, it's okay, I know I'm safe. It can also be helpful to either close your eyes or open your eyes and pick a spot on the floor or the ceiling or wall that helps you feel anchored into your body. It can also be helpful just to take a few slow breaths, feeling your body rise and fall. And if you ever need to take a break from the stillness, that is fine too. Remember, this is a practice. I think sometimes when it's difficult to be still, people, or at least I will sometimes think that there's, I don't know, maybe something wrong with me or I'm doing it wrong, but there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. This is just a practice that we're cultivating. And it is perhaps forming new neurological pathways in our brain, again, especially in a world where there's so much sensory input all the time. Just to be still and breathe is a gift that you're giving yourself, even if it can be a little bit tricky. We'll hold here for another 2 minutes. Take an inhale, feel your body rise. Anything you'd like to let go of, let it go with the exhale breath. When we hold postures for long periods of time, we want to take care to slowly come out of them because our body tends to kind of mold into that shape. So if your head is rolled to the right, you're going to slowly and gently bring the back of your head to the floor. If your elbows are bent, you can straighten your arms. If your hands are crossed, you can uncross hands. If your left ankle is over your right ankle, uncross your feet. At your own pace, make your way back to the center line of your space. You can do any little counter stretch that you'd like here, whatever feels good to your body. And then bring your arms and legs down into your version of Puddle Pose or Savasana. In that posture, we stretched one side of the body and compressed the other side of the body. We also open through the shoulders and chest. And now as we come into a more neutral position, our body regains its equilibrium. You might feel a shift in where blood is in your body. You might feel something open up or pop or release. This could be in the physical body. This could also be like an emotional release or a realization. It can be very subtle or non-existent, or it can be really profound and intense. And all of these things, from the mundane and the boring to the profound and revelatory, often reside side by side in a yoga practice. And it's our job to just kind of bear witness and stay in our bodies and our breath so that we can observe both those kind of, again, mundane moments, and then also be present for the ones that can sometimes be intense without judgment or expectation or the need to explain. Just practicing compassion with ourselves, non-judgment with ourselves, the same way that we're practicing stillness and breath. These are practices that we're cultivating. Let's do the other side of our banana pose, bringing your feet together, arms overhead. Once again, you can stretch up and down, and then start to walk your hands and feet to the left side of your mat, stretching the body in the opposite direction. Now, for the sake of symmetry, if you crossed your left ankle over your right ankle on the other side, you might try crossing your right ankle over the left ankle here. However, we're not symmetrical, and this side might necessitate a different shape or depth of the posture. So just be aware of that as we go into the posture. Again, you can keep your hands and feet side by side. You can cross right ankle over left ankle. You can cross right hand over left hand, or bend your elbows, catching opposite elbow with opposite hand. You can have the back of your head on the floor, or you can roll your left ear down towards the floor, gently stretching through the right side neck and shoulder. The more you bring your hands and feet towards the center of your space, the more gentle the asana is. The more you bring your hands and feet to the left, the more you'll feel that stretch to the right side body and squeeze to the left side body. Once you've found a shape that feels pleasant and not too intense, make your way into stillness and breath. In more yang styles of yoga, like 26 and 2 yoga or vinyasa or ashtanga, we're contracting muscles, we're holding postures for 30 seconds to a minute, we're pushing ourselves. In yin yoga, we hold postures for longer, we do a little less, and rather than contracting muscles, you want to relax your muscles. So notice where you might be holding on to some tension in the body, and just gently start to let go. And this is a practice as well. Sometimes, for example, I notice that I'm holding tension in my abdomen, and no matter how much I focus my attention there, I can't fully relax. That's okay. Be gentle with yourself if there's a part of your body that you can't quite relax, or a thought in your mind that you keep looping back to. When we're practicing compassion with ourselves, practicing maybe letting go of thoughts, letting go of muscle tension, that can take some time. Whenever I find that my mind is on repeat, or there's a certain feeling that I can't let go of, or an area of tension in my body that won't release, I might imagine what it is, what it will feel like, or what it would feel like when that part of the body relaxes, or when that thought or feeling passes. And sometimes just envisioning what that might feel like in the future allows us to relax a little deeper and helps us to stay curious. We'll hold here for 3 more minutes. You can inhale, feel your body rise. As you exhale, enjoy the sensation of the body falling. If your head is rolled to the left, slowly, mindfully bring the back of your head onto the mat. If your elbows are bent, straighten your arms. And if your hands are crossed, uncross hands. If your ankles are crossed, uncross feet. And at your own leisurely pace, walk your hands and feet back to the center line of your body. Again, any little motions that you'd like to do with your body, you're welcome to do so. And then return your arms and legs down into your puddle pose. It's common to feel almost like stiff or achy when we come out of the Yin Yoga posture, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you've done anything wrong or pushed yourself too hard. I usually measure if I've pushed myself too hard in a class based on how I feel the next day. So, if tomorrow you feel like a little stretched out or even slightly sore, that's one thing, but if you feel like something hurts, right, that might be a reminder next time you practice to be a little bit more gentle. But when we immediately come out of the posture, because we were in it for so long, to feel like a little stiff or achy is normal. It's just the body kind of rebounding after being in that long held shape. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Next, we're going to do happy baby pose, and partway through, I will offer an alternative called Malasana or Garland Pose for anyone who'd like to try it. You're going to start by bending your knees so your feet are on the floor. Keep your knees bent and lift your feet off the floor, bringing your thighs in towards your abdomen. You have a lot of options here. You can keep your hands on the floor. You can grab the outsides of your hamstrings or the backs of your knees. You can also grab the outsides of your feet with your hands and flex your toes back. And from here, you can rock right and left a few times, rolling out the spine. As you roll to your right, you might gently straighten your right leg, stretching the inner thigh, and then come back to center and roll to the left and gently straighten your left leg, stretching the inner thigh, and then come back to center. You can flex your toes back gently. Think about drawing your knees to the floor, not actually forcing the knees down into the floor unless you're very mobile, but just knees to the outsides of the ribs, soles of the feet towards the ceiling, head on the floor. You might tuck your chin in ever so slightly to relax the neck down. Think about relaxing your shoulders and hips down. Soften through your inner thighs and pelvic floor. Let your belly button be heavy like lead. We're going to hold here for a total of 5 minutes. At the 2-minute mark, again, I'll give an optional other variation of this posture where you can stay just as you are. For now, just think about relaxing into the posture. So relaxing the inner thighs rather than forcing or fighting. And again, doing about like 70% of what you think you should be doing. You do not need to be actively like pulling down on your feet because we are here for a while. This posture is called happy baby because babies often make the shape of their body. And I'm reminded even in a class that's, focusing on stillness and breath and solitude, there can still be a lightness of spirit or even like a joyful or playful aspect to a yoga practice. You have an option to stay in your happy baby pose. You can also, again, try a more upright version of this posture called Malasana, which I will walk us through. If you would like to try it, you can release any grip you have on your feet or your legs. Take your time. Place your hands outside of your knees and slowly bring your knees and feet together. There's no rush. You're going to roll off to one side and gently press yourself up into a seated position. Take a moment here to breathe. My hair is very silly. Okay. From here, for Malasana pose, if you're familiar with the pose, you can get in it how feels good to you. Otherwise, after sitting up for a moment, especially if you have low blood pressure, sit before you stand. You're going to slowly stand up, keep your knees bent, and you're going to open your feet depending on your body proportions. You might have your feet like 1.5 feet apart. You might have your heels up to 3 feet apart. Turn your toes out and your heels in. Keep your knees bent, put your hands on the floor, and you're going to start to sit down. Now, for a lot of folks, having a wider gap between the heels helps people to sit down more. Because of my body proportions, having my heels closer together helps me to sit down, but your feet can be much wider apart than mine. If your heels do not naturally touch the floor, that's very normal. You can keep your hands on the floor and lean forward. If you have pillow or pillows that you'd like to place under your heels, that can also help you to sit down. Right? And if you're trying this pose and you're like, you know what, this is not for me today, you can go back into your happy baby. That's totally fine. If you have your heels down, you might try bringing your hands in prayer and pressing your elbows into your knees ever so slightly. And you don't need to like force anything because we're here for a while. Drop your hips down, lift your chest up, relax your shoulders. This is again a great hip opener, inner thigh stretch. It's good for people who menstruate. It's good for digestion. And you might not know why it's called Malasana. If you've ever heard of mala beads, they're those like wooden beads in a necklace that I think are, traditionally associated with Hinduism and Buddhism, but sometimes get either appreciated or appropriated by Western kind of hippie culture. But mala beads that's the root of Malasana, and it's called Garland Pose because when you see like statues of ancient yogis and gods with the mala beads, they're often in this shape that we're making here. So that's why it's called Malasana or Garland Pose. It's also sometimes referred to as a yogi squat. This is how a lot of the world sits by the side of the road, plays games, uses the bathroom. This is how a lot of people around the world even like sit when they eat, but this is not necessarily something that people in the United States and in other Western cultures do a lot. And it's just like any other part of yoga, a practice. So if you find it difficult to open your hips like this, there's nothing wrong with you, but you might try practicing happy baby and then maybe Garland pose for a minute every day, and slowly the hips and knees start to open up. Speaking of minutes, we will hold here whatever shape you're making for 1 more minute. Take an inhale Anything you'd like to let go of, let it go through the exhale breath. If you are in happy baby, you can gently release any grip you have on your feet or the backs of your legs. Place your hands outside of your knees. Bring your knees, feet together. Bring your feet down to the floor. And at your own pace, lower your arms and legs down. If you are in Malasana, place your hands on the floor in front of you. Gently lift your hips. Turn your toes back forward, keeping your hands on the floor. Can come back into a seated position and then lie back on your backs in puddle pose, arms and legs down. And again, you can always keep your knees bent, feet on the floor for your reset. We often store tension in our hips. And so when we do hip openers like that, it can release that tension. That can come out again in like a physical sensation, like a shift in temperature in the hips or the feet. But it can also come out as like an urge to laugh or cry, or just like an intense or subtle emotion might pop up. It's our job again just to observe with compassion rather than judgment, as we return to a neutral body, neutral spirit position, breathing in and out. Bend your knees if they're not already. Take your time rolling off to one side, maybe a side you haven't rolled off to. Keep rolling. And roll onto your abdomen for Sphinx pose. Lying on your abdomen with your feet about hip width distance, tops of the feet relaxed onto the floor. Bend your elbows so that your elbows and hands are about shoulder width distance. This is a back bend. For a deeper back bend, you can have your elbows directly underneath your shoulders. Or for a more gentle back bend, you can have your elbows in front of your shoulders. With Yin Yoga in general, we want to relax muscles in our body. In this pose, you do want to activate through the elbows, forearms, and palms so that your shoulders stay out of your ears. Think about keeping the shoulders out of the ears, neck long. Again, in a culture where we tend to hunch forward a lot, doing a back bend like this is so good for releasing tension from the body and stretching out the chest, even if it feels a little odd when we're in it. We're going to hold here for a total of 3 minutes, keeping the shoulders out of the ears, neck long, and relax the lower body. Keep your shoulders out of your ears. I have to remind myself of that. Holding here for 1 more minute. Sometimes in this final minute, we might start to experience some discomfort. I certainly felt that in the last posture and in this one a bit too. And part of our practice of breath, of stillness, of solitude is confronting our discomfort, right? Which is different than confronting pain. If something is painful, you want to do something else or take a break. But if something's a little uncomfortable or discomfortable, this is a safe space to just confront that within yourself and breathe through it. So that you're not gritting your teeth, you're forcing, you're relaxing through the discomfort. Turning inward, going inward to the breath, in and out through the nose. Take an inhale. Anything you'd like to let go of, let it go through the exhale breath. Slowly take your elbows out and your hands in. You can bring your forehead to the floor. You can also look over one shoulder so one ear comes to the floor. Some deep belly breaths in and out through your nose to massage the front of your body. Breathe deep into any point of tension. Let the floor hold you up. You're looking to one side, gently lift your head and look to the other side, other ear on your mat. Gently lift your head, look forward, place your hands under your shoulders, and press yourself up into a seated position. We're going to go into a child's pose. If you have tight toes, ankles, or knees, you can roll up your yoga mat so there's extra space under that joint. You can also place a pillow or blanket under any delicate joints. For this child's pose, I'm going to keep my knees together because we did that big hip opener earlier, but if it feels better for you to have a wide-legged child's pose, you're welcome to keep your feet together, but open your knees. If sitting back on your heels is not accessible, you're welcome to put blankets or pillows in between your calves and thighs. And then as you're ready, you're going to walk your hands forward and sink your forehead down. And if your forehead does not touch the floor, you might also try placing pillows or blankets underneath your head or your chest. If having your arms forward does not feel good to your shoulders, you can also take your arms down. And if sitting on your feet, if child's pose simply is not accessible, does not feel good to your body, we can stretch the spine in other ways, right? You can press yourself up, sit on your butt with your feet in front of you, legs relaxed, and then fold forward. So you're still getting that lengthening from the lower back after the compression. This is called caterpillar pose. You can keep your back flat if you have a history of slip discs, or you can let your head drop and round your spine. And again, this is a good alternative for anyone who has like a foot or ankle or knee injury where child's pose does not feel good or it's not advised. So you still get that stretch to the back without being on your feet. Otherwise, taking a child's pose. We're here for a total of 5 minutes, already 2 minutes in. As you inhale, reach your arms or the crown of your head forward. And as you exhale, sink your hips back, stretching out the spine. Slowly lift your head. Take your time walking your hands back towards your body. Slowly press yourself up into a seated position. If you'd like, you can do a little counter back bend, placing your hands on your back, doing a little back bend. Good. If you have any props on your body, you can remove those or unroll your mat. And then take your time, lie on your back. Savasana, Puddle Pose. And again, if you feel a little like stiff or achy coming out of that, that is normal. Bernie Clark, who's kind of like the godfather of Yin Yoga, says coming out of Yin Yoga postures gives us compassion for like the very old or people with arthritis, right? Because you can kind of feel what that feels like in the joints. Have your arms and legs down or knees bent, feet on the floor. So through this practice, we're not just cultivating compassion for ourselves, we are cultivating compassion for other people as well. There's an interesting part of another part of the book I read earlier, The Art of Solitude. Again, the author, Stephen Batchelor, has written several books, including one called Alone with Others. And in it, he says, drawing upon Western phenomenology and existentialism, Alone with Others presented a Buddhist understanding of human fulfillment, so what he would call awakening, as the integration of wisdom, aka being alone, and compassion, aka being with others. So it's this idea that our awakening comes from the integration of our wisdom, our being alone, and our compassion, our being with others. I particularly find this beautiful in a Yin Yoga practice, particularly when we are practicing together while at the same time practicing solitude and stillness and breath. Maybe that's where real like awakening comes from, right? Bend your knees if they're not already, feet on the floor. You can take your arms out to the side in a big expansive gesture. You can also bend your elbows, cactusing them like goalposts. And from here, roll to the left so that your right hip stacks on top of your left hip. Right knee on top of left knee. Right foot on top of left foot. Roll your right shoulder down towards the floor. Open, think about opening, stretching out to your chest and shoulders. You have an option to keep both knees bent. You can also straighten your bottom leg to the back of your mat. And if you'd like, you can kick out your top leg to the left so you get an IT band stretch to the right thigh. From here, you can keep the back of your head on the floor, or you can look over your right shoulder, rolling your right ear down towards the floor. And we'll hold here for 3 minutes. Remember to be practicing about 70% of your depth. So if, for example, you can kick out your top leg, but it feels like too much of a stretch to the outer thigh or hip, you can keep that knee bent as an example, or just sort of lower the leg down so it's still kicked out, but it's not at like a 90-degree angle. Where can you relax?
What can you let go of? Melt into your mat. Sink into your breath. Holding here for 1 more minute. As you inhale, feel your chest stretch out and expand. Exhale, soften the right shoulder down to the floor. If you're looking over your right shoulder, gently bring the back of your head to the floor. If your top leg is straight, slowly bend your top leg. Then bend your bottom leg. Roll your right hip back down. And we'll go to the other side. Roll to the right with left hip on top of right hip. Left shoulder down to the floor, opening through the chest and shoulders. Option to keep both knees bent or straighten your bottom leg to the back of your mat. You can keep your top leg bent or kick it out to the right. You can keep the back of your head on the floor or look over your left shoulder. Rather than forcing or contracting muscles, just relax. And if you can't relax, just picture what it might feel like for the body to let go and the mind to still, heart to clear. And inhale. And then exhale. You're looking over your left shoulder. Slowly roll the back of your head to the floor. Your top leg is kicked out, bend the top leg. Bend bottom leg. And at your own pace, roll your left hip back down. For your final Savasana, you can keep your arms out or lower them down. You can keep your knees bent with the feet on the floor and the knees resting together, or you can lower your legs down. And close your eyes, or keep them open, and take a nice, easy breath. I'll read one more time that passage from The Art of Solitude that we started with. Again, this is by the Buddhist monk and scholar Stephen Batchelor. There is more to solitude than just being alone. True solitude is a way of being that needs to be cultivated. You cannot switch it on or off at will. Solitude is an art. Mental training is needed to refine and stabilize it. When you practice solitude, you dedicate yourself to the care of the soul. For those who have rejected religion in favor of secular humanism, the notion of solitude may imply self-indulgence, navel-gazing, or solipsism. Inevitably, some may be drawn to solitude as a way of escaping responsibility and avoiding relationships. But for many, it provides the time and space to develop the inner calm and autonomy needed to engage effectively and creatively with the world. Moments of quiet contemplation, whether before a work of art or while observing your breath, allow you to rethink what your life is about and reflect on what matters most for you. Solitude is not a luxury for the leisured few. It is an inescapable dimension of being human. Whether we are devout believers or devout atheists, in solitude, we confront and explore the same existential questions. I wish you peace and reflection on your contemplative journey, remembering that our awakening comes from both our inner wisdom and aloneness, and our compassion, and our shared experiences with other, even if that shared experience is simply the shared experience of being alone. Inhale, body rise. Exhale, body fall. You are so very alive, and you are so very loved.